The idea that I want to focus on today is called the Energy Project, but I think we could all just as well call it this: how I'm perfecting the art of abandoning perfection. Because I think that this is a battle that many women fight. And if you Bennies are anything like me, I had to take perfectionism off the list of things that I value deeply. For a long time, this is how I felt about the beginning of my week. Sunday was my prep day for attacking the week. I'd pack my bags, I'd put the suitcase in the car. Of course, I'd put in about 20 hours of work over the weekend just so I would be ready. And that would include creating a priority list for each day of the coming week. I'd have a written list of phone calls that I would nicely place on the passenger side of my car so that I could cover it as I drove from Minneapolis to St. Cloud. I'd put my computer by the front door, I'd pick out my outfit and jewelry for Monday. You get the idea. And I will tell you this, it worked. It worked very well, but it wasn't enough. As a perfectionist, this process of getting ahead, or in my head it was about winning, it just wasn't enough. I was looking for the Usain Bolt finish. And if you don't know Usain Bolt, this is a picture of him winning the 200-meter dash at the Beijing Olympics in 2008. He was the fastest human in the world. And as you can see, the finish wasn't even close. And that's the standard that I was setting for myself. I wanted to win, however I was defining it, by a large margin in every circumstance possible. But as I took on roles, especially at work, that required more thought leadership and people leadership, rather than technical expertise and sheer effort, this became increasingly difficult. I started to feel like my finishes or my quality of work were like this. I was still doing well, but I was cutting it close and dealing with a lot of metaphorical road rash. And then eventually, I found myself spending more time picking myself up than celebrating. Time management and self-discipline simply weren't enough. I started missing deadlines, feeling ill-prepared for work, forgetting about commitments, running myself into the ground, and getting sick far too often. I was getting tripped up. Finally, during a particularly challenging project at grad school, my friend Kelsey, who was one of the many strong, empowered, amazing women that I met through the program, started to open my eyes. I watched in wonder as she would confidently face her group and she would say, "Gimo, good enough, move on." At the time, I will confess, I thought this was a defeatist attitude. Good enough just didn't seem like enough to me. But I had already been introduced to this concept of energy management through some of the reading in my MBA program, and eventually it all tied together. Energy management is rooted in the principle that time is finite, but energy is infinite, assuming we replenish our tank from time to time. Kelsey's GEMO strategy was liberating and empowering because when I applied it to my personal and professional life, it worked. It allowed me to deliver on my priorities at a higher level because I could give them more time, focus, and most importantly, energy. The Energy Project began 15 years ago, focused on teaching people to be healthier, happier, and more focused by managing their energy. The early inspiration actually came from working with athletes who were struggling with performance challenges that defied technical solutions. You can learn a lot more about this at theenergyproject.com, and I really suggest you do. So the idea is that we want to spend more time in the performance zone and less in the survival and burnout zones, the place we default to in the face of fear and fatigue. According to the Energy Project, human beings require 4 sources of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. For me, as a Benny, this was illuminating, and it helped explain my deep connection to this place and the tremendous energy that I felt here during my time. All 4 of those sources, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, were consistently filled and renewed here at St. Ben's, like at no other time in my life. One other observation I picked up from the Energy Project that's been key for me is that a strength that is overused becomes a liability. By choosing up sides where one quality is good and one quality is bad, our tendency is to overuse our preferred qualities. Confidence is important, for example. But too much confidence eventually becomes arrogance. The balancing quality is humility. In my case, I had been leaning on my strong capacity for continuous hard work, but that eventually turned into overwork and burnout. Intermittent renewal became the antidote. Okay then, so how do we re-energize? The key is identifying and establishing rituals for yourself. Rituals are specific behaviors that are intentionally practiced and precisely scheduled with the goal of making them unconscious and automatic. And doesn't that make so much sense? Think about what we learned here at St. Ben's. The consistency of Mass and prayer times, family dinners with your roommates, and early morning runs with our teammates. So I took the importance of rituals to heart and I took some of the things that I used to consider nice to do, and I made them need to do. They've become non-negotiable. To find your own rituals, let me first give you a couple steps. First, give yourself permission to have your own rhythm. In my opinion, one of the kindest things that we can do for ourselves is listen to our own internal clock. I'm talking about setting boundaries and taking control of your schedule as best you can. And honestly, this is different for all of us. We each have our own constraints and limitations placed on us by families, our jobs, our commitments, our relationships, our finances, and our circumstances. But I would like for you to carefully and honestly examine your constraints and determine how many of them you're actually placing on yourself. Maybe for you, it's not answering emails late at night or before your first cup of coffee in the morning. Or it could be taking the long way home so that you have more time to transition from one part of your day to the other. Second, identify how you recharge. What fills you up physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? And then third, this is the hard part, just do it. Come up with ideas and test them out, just one at a time. Set a pilot time frame, give it a shot, and see what works best for you. Here's the list of some of my rituals. I go to church, not every weekend, but quite a few. It's something I grew up with. And if nothing else, it's an uninterrupted hour to reflect without a cell phone in sight. I also stopped trying to stay up late and wake up early. I truly need 8 hours a night, and I do get it most nights. I eat breakfast every day. I used to excuse missing breakfast because I was so busy, and I would end up eating unhealthy foods throughout the day, and then I would feel lethargic. I also have to spend time with girlfriends, at least twice a month. I'll do brunch, happy hour, workouts together, whatever it is. If our schedules don't work, I will throw myself my own girls' night. And because I love food so much, this usually involves going to a restaurant and eating at the bar for a long dinner. It's wonderful. Enjoying uninterrupted time with the women who fill me up brings me joy. And it turns out that I'm a woman that I like to spend time with too. I also exercise. My favorite workout days are Fridays and Sundays, so I protect those days. And then I try to get in 2 days a week. And last, I've learned the power of the word no. Not in a hard and fast way, but more of a no for now, not no forever kind of way. So this is my journey. This is how I'm working to move from time management to energy management. What are you doing to refuel your mind, body, and spirit? What can we all do to help each other in this process? What would it look like if we all had more energy for the things that matter most to us? If we could continue to energize ourselves like we did when we were here on campus? How can we ensure that the current students, future Bennies, our daughters, our friends, and every one of us has the capacity to bring our best selves to serve the world in which we live? A few weeks ago, Heather mentioned to me the transition of varsity athletics nickname from Blazers to Bennies. And my instinctive response as a Benny and a four-year varsity athlete was, good, own it. I love being a College of St. Benedict athlete, but the big picture on this is important to me. Benny might have meant any number of things to any number of people at any point in time when we were students. I am proud that we, the women of the College of St. Benedict, are stepping up to own who we are. My hope for all of us is to own our Bennyhood, to own being enough, because we are enough. Run your race and become your own champion. My prayer for all of you is that you have the energy to be your best self. Because think of what that means when we can harness that energy. Think of the sheer power of the collective energy of this room of Bennies. Then think what it means for the world when we can unleash the collective power of Benny Nation. Enjoy this weekend with your girls, with the women who inspire you, who renew you, who know you, who love you. Power up because the world needs you. Thank you.